This episode of the Wax Pack Flashback is brought to you by Trading Card Database. Visit tcdb.com.
Hey there, Wax Packers! Adam coming at you with a special crossover edition of Wax Pack Flashback. So my podcast here on the Retro Network Wizards, the podcast guide to comics, we recently had a special event on Zoom where we were talking about this tribute edition magazine to the one and only Wolverine from X-Men. Yes, very, very popular. Of course, in the movies, but for comic book fans, he started there first, and definitely, in the 90s, kids love their animated Wolverine. And so as a result, I thought that we would open up a pack of Wolverine trading cards. This is actually Series 2. Wolverine was just that popular. I'm going to get into that in a second here. But so, my history with Wolverine, I definitely saw him in some cartoons early on. I bought action figures. You guys probably remember this one by Toy Biz, right? I bought, some posters that were on my walls as a kid and things like that. But he was never a top-tier character for my comic book collecting and reading. And yet recently a friend of mine was very kind and he gave me his and his brother's collections of 80s and 90s comics. So I suddenly inherited a stack of Wolverine comics that I had never deigned to read myself. So some really interesting issues here, some really cool art, coming up with Wolverine, a classic character. I gotta say the orange and tan look has always been my favorite Wolverine outfit. But then as a result, I've been reading and understanding more about the character over time as I've caught up with those issues. So I am very excited to look at these cards, see what I recognize, see what I know about the character based on what I've read and what is being presented in these cards. So I say, let's get into it. All right, here we are with our pack of Wolverine from Then Till Now Series 2 trading cards by Comic Images. Got the glaring eyes of Wolverine peering through the package at us. It tells us to look for 6 special Prism cards. Now, these are by Comic Images. They were not the highest quality production of cards. They basically just pulled panels from the comics. But let's take a look here at what it explains about this set. Follow the exploits of one of Marvel's most acclaimed heroes, Wolverine. Old Mr. Adamantium Claus himself returns with his second and most complete trading card series yet. 90 fabulous depictions of just what makes a hero, plus 6 extra special Prism cards and 10 cards per pack. So very interested to see here if this is pulled from this era of comics that I've been reading recently. Probably going to be familiar with a lot of this stuff. So let's see here. All right, first up, oh wow, okay. Now this is the thing with the Comic Images cards, is something about the printing always seemed to get rid of the nice inking and the coloring that the comic books had. So here, this is definitely, some X-Men fighting Omega Red. That doesn't feel like it was, let's see here if it tells you the comic it was from. Nope, not exactly. But Carbonadium synthesizer is a cheaper, more malleable version of adamantium. Logan was last seen with the C synthesizer 30 years ago. Wow, okay. So that's kind of a little bit of interesting history there. All right, let's take a look at this. Okay, so I did read this comic recently. This was kind of the end of a run where Mark Silvestri was the artist. So you see, again, Gambit and Jubilee are part of this. This is Sunfire over here, and this is Sela, I guess is how you say it. Kyla? I don't know how you would really pronounce that, but she is a cyborg that basically is there to, give Wolverine a little bit of trouble. This one, everybody wanted to have some form of adamantium, but it was so rare, so this was called laminated molybdenum steel, is what she was laced with and stuff. So anyway, I love how they come up with all these fake metals and stuff. All right, here we go. All right, so this guy has Wolverine hair, and I didn't understand that when I was reading the comics here. He is the head of, the Yakuza in these stories, Matsuo. And he is basically creating problems for Wolverine's, would-be fiance, Mariko. And this is interesting here. It says, no, Wolverine cut off Matsuo's real hand while Matsuo is digging up Janice's body looking for the C synthesizer. So he does have this robotic hand that he kind of launches out at people when he's upset with them. All right. Interesting. Okay, so now we got Wolverine with Captain America. Don't know who that's supposed to be. Is that Dum Dum Dugan? He doesn't have red hair, though. We got some sort of Nazi soldier back there. What's this one? 1941. Wolverine's sketchy past included an adventure with Captain America, which took place on Madripoor in 1941. Okay, so this must be from one of the panels I just don't remember from the classic issue that has Wolverine, Black Widow, and Captain America on the cover. Or maybe this was a second Captain America story? Ooh, interesting. Okay, so this really is going throughout Wolverine's history. This is from the Wolverine and Kitty Pryde miniseries, which I was just reading, and so I definitely recognize that. This is where she became Shadowcat. She had all these different names before. She was Sprite, she was Ariel, she was trying to find a good code name, or the writers were. It says here, Catherine Kitty Pryde, former X-Men member, was brainwashed by the evil Ronin Ogun into becoming a ninja assassin. Her first mission was to attack Wolverine. Kitty assumed the identity and costume of Shadowcat during this incident. So she basically, and that carried on for years after that. That was like the one name that stuck. But note, it had been rumored that Wolverine trained under Ogun. He was Wolverine's sensei who was responsible for teaching Wolverine everything he knew about fighting. Yeah, and Ogun had this like devil demon mask thing. But yeah, that was really interesting where Kitty Pryde became more than just a girl who could phase. She had ninja training now. Okay, so there's Wolverine. This looks like one of the stories that took place in the basement of the Hellfire Club, but they probably fought a lot of these Hellfire goons. What does this say here? Coming to the aid of his fellow X-Men, Wolverine confronted a group of the Hellfire Club's mercenaries. Yep, so there you go. that if I remember right, that was one where he was like coming up through the sewer and everything. It was a real, mucky situation, but it was very iconic. Okay. So let's see which of Wolverine's many girlfriends or associates this is. Yeah, so this is honor. Mariko cannot accept love or help from Logan until she has restored the honor of her family, Yoshida. She starts to remove a finger in sacrifice, but she's poisoned by blowfish toxins, which cover the knife. Unwilling to die a slow, painful death, she convinces Wolverine to end it quickly after a tearful goodbye. He pops his claws. This comic was the last issue that Mark Silvestri was the artist on before he went to Image Comics, and it is fantastic. I really, really love this. I highlighted this in our Wolverine tribute episode. Note, the Yoshida clan lost face when it was discovered Mariko's father had underworld ties, so they never got to be married because basically she wanted to, get the skeletons out of the closet. Wow, look at this. I think that is maybe one of the Brood, these aliens that the X-Men were fighting for a while. Let's see. Yep, the Brood, an alien race of insect-like creatures spawned by implanting eggs into other life forms when hatched. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yes. The Alien and Aliens franchise was very big for John Byrne, who was working with Chris Claremont at this time. And here we go. One of the other Weapon X program graduates, if you will, Maverick. A product of the same Project X as Wolverine, David North, aka Maverick, is immune with the ability to see into the various immediate futures of his foes and choose the best course of action to ensure victory. I never knew that was his power. I just knew he was this guy that had all this armor on. Look at this now. No, Wolverine returned the C synthesizer to Maverick after 30 years. They love this C synthesizer machine, whatever it was. That must have been a big storyline in the earlier comics that I did not read. And the last one here is the Wolverine checklist. So yeah, it really looks like it is handling everything from Wolverine's history as you look there. Let me flip it over here. So there's all 90 cards on there, some Ghost Rider, some Venom, the future. Yeah, so all right, well, let's check these out one more time, and I'll tell you which one was my favorite. All right, well, that card set was certainly what I expected. Like I said, it was things pulled directly from the comics. Like, for example, this card with Scylla, or whoever, I guess, because it's a cyborg, must be Scylla. That's what I've settled on. But you have this, and then here's the original comic book cover. As you can see, very, very similar art style. Pull that up a little bit closer so you can compare, right? So that's basically their stock and trade. Now, Did I like the cards themselves? They were fine. Like, the information on the back was if you were trying to catch up with the character, they really laid it out for you. And I think that led into, my card that caught my attention the most was the one with Mariko on there, because this is that issue I was telling you about where she asked Wolverine to end her, just as Silvestri was ending his run on Wolverine as the artist. So that's really interesting there. But as far as like, when you open up a pack, especially as a kid in 1992, what did you want? You wanted Wolverine in action. And I felt like there were only a few cards that had Wolverine actually doing anything. And this is probably the main one, where he is just up there, got the claws going and he's slashing at somebody. There's a gun firing, like that. That is the kind of Wolverine action I think people expect. So this is going to be my favorite card, of this opening, definitely. Now, if you can't get enough Wolverine action, if that kind of primed the pump for you, oh yeah, I used to love him, on the Fox cartoon, or you love Hugh Jackman, good for you. Not been my favorite interpretation of Wolverine, but either way, if you want to have that type of discussion with a couple other geeky nerds, or at least listen in and share your thoughts as you're yelling at your radio or in your earbuds, we have our Wolverine bonus episode where we have a Zoom call where we had a few of the listeners of Wizards, the Podcast Guide to Comics, join myself and Michael, my co-host here, who is also the co-host of Box Office 30 here on the Retro Network, if you've never checked that out. Going back and revisiting movies of 30 years back from the month of that episode. It's very cool. But either way, I would suggest that you go find Wizards, the Podcast Guide to Comics, and you might just enjoy that conversation. You might learn some things you didn't know before, and you might get a kick out of some of our opinions. So definitely recommend that you check out our bonus Wolverine Zoom event episode. In the meantime, stay tuned, because I will be back with another edition of Wax Pack Flashback and opening up another exciting pack of cards from yesteryear. So, until next time, we'll check you later.